I told you all that I would be doing some more political content. That's what's happening today. I did my rant on Roe v. Wade being overturned, and while producing the video, I realized that I go through this process almost every year. For the past few years, I've had to defend the right to an abortion by undermining the pro-life agenda, debunking and condemning religious justification for outlawing abortion, as the Bible fails to directly condemn abortion, but also the First Amendment of the Constitution is meant to keep the church and state separate. And time again, I've had to come on here and remind everyone that anti-abortion campaigns are about control, not respect for human life. I firmly believe that the Republican Party is an organization of closet fascists that have convinced the public that aborting an embryonic fetus is not only sinful, but that it's no different from killing a live baby. And unfortunately, red state conservatives eat that propaganda up. After Roe v. Wade was overturned, Kevin McCarthy went on stage and lied to everyone that the United States stands with China and North Korea as one of the few countries that allow abortions in the third trimester, and called it radical. While China has no cutoff for abortions, North Korea prohibits it unless the mother's health is in danger or the fetus has been damaged. South Korea has no gestational cutoff limit. But anything to make the communists look bad, I guess. And I also love the term radical is used to describe abortions in the third trimester, by the same party that perpetrated the 1/6/21 riot at the federal Capitol building in Washington, D.C. If you think excising a 6-week-old fetus is radical, just wait till you see what the American communists truly want. But I hesitate to defend the Democrats, as they have had decades to codify Roe v. Wade into national law. In the 49 years since Roe v. Wade was decided, the Democrats have held the presidency for 21 and a half years total. In fact, Roe v. Wade was decided under the Nixon administration. Since then, the Democrats have also had a Speaker of Congress for a total of 29 years, as well as the Senate majority for 25 and a half years. No excuses. The Democrats let this happen. They can argue that it was purely the Supreme Court and that the Dems didn't really have much say in it, but it's a weak claim when you actually do the research. They have also allowed cannabis to remain illegal through all those years despite it being part of the Democratic platform. Liberals claim to want to see cannabis legalized, and yet time and time again they vote for anti-cannabis politicians. Joe Biden says he wouldn't legalize cannabis. Kamala Harris has convicted people for cannabis possession during her time as a judge. I realized that in 2020 I voted for Biden, but we all have our regrets. I was still a liberal up until last year, but I digress. Cannabis was first outlawed in the United States in 1970 under the Controlled Substance Act. Funny enough, this was also under Nixon. It wouldn't be until 2012, when the states of Colorado and Washington legalized marijuana for recreational use, that cannabis was once again being freely used in any part of the United States. We have only been re-legalizing cannabis piecemeal for 10 years. The position on cannabis legalization among the left is pretty vague, but it's illegal in China, North Korea, Cuba, and Vietnam, as well as Vuvuzela. Unauthorized growth and use of cannabis was forbidden in Soviet-era Russia. Karl Marx stated that the legalization of cannabis would be heavily influenced by the bourgeoisie for the purposes of profit. So it would be completely understandable to want to keep cannabis restricted to prevent profit motives from rising, which could come in the form of shady business practices by dispensary corporations, or especially in the case of medical legalization, the pharmaceutical industry price gouging cannabis products. It would also be reasonable to keep cannabis restricted to prevent something akin to the opium crisis that happened in China during the 19th century, when British imperialists attempted to coerce China into becoming a subject of European powers by getting the Chinese people addicted to opium. But what separates the opium crisis from today's narcomania is that in the states that have legalized cannabis, marijuana usage did not increase, or increased by a small margin. So there wouldn't be much use in foreign powers attempting to undermine a communist state by trying to get them addicted to cannabis. In the present day, outlawed cannabis is another muscle being activated by the grip that the United States government has on its own people. Conservatives use religious justification for keeping cannabis completely illegal by propagating marijuana as the devil's flower, but this is also disproven, as cannabis had been used in ancient Israel for its hallucinogenic effects. That's right, not as medicine, but as a recreational good. The Bible in particular is silent on the topic of cannabis. In fact, the Bible warns about the negative effects of drunkenness. Ephesians 5:18 states that drunkenness can lead to overindulging, whereas not a peep is mentioned about cannabis. It's all in the minds of the conservative proletariat that cannabis consumption is a sin and should be kept illegal, while also from the mouths of closet fascist politicians that want to see how tight of a grip they can hold on the American people. The Democrats may present themselves as an alternative to Republican totalitarianism and tell everyone that they'll legalize cannabis, but ultimately they only serve to pussyfoot their platform, waste time, or just not even try when a seemingly powerless Republican Party tries to influence legislation or court rulings. And that brings me to a thought that I had after publishing the video talking about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And that is, this is the single biggest flaw of having a two-party state. It's no wonder that communists support the idea of a one-party state when looking at the United States as the example of a two-party liberal democracy, because in this country, Republicans will oppose legislation legislation on, like, infrastructure and healthcare simply because it's part of the Democratic agenda. But when a Republican proposes the exact same infrastructure bill, it gets the thumbs up from Republicans in Congress and Senate. Democrats did the same thing over the COVID vaccine. They didn't want it if the Trump administration authorized it, but the minute Biden was the one who authorized it, the Democrats were satisfied. In a one-party state, this constant struggle doesn't exist. Like, it's one thing nationalists don't realize. Why accelerate the constant struggle when you can just have it not exist? But my point is, if a Marxist nation is to hold elections, it should be between rising figures of the party, have them present an agenda, and have the people vote on who they think will be more effective, and who will better guide the working people forward, and whoever wins the popular vote wins the election because the Electoral College is bullshit. Having a one-party state would also disillusion millions of people who fucking vote based on party affiliation. So let's break not just the cycle, but also these chains. Law is like a heavy weight. The government can squeeze as much as it wants to, but unless they want to keep it firm, the weight needs to be light enough so the government doesn't lose control of it. And if they lose control of it, it's gonna smash their foot. If the cycle continues, this will eventually happen to the United States of America. And I will leave what happens then up to your imagination. I'm gonna go on ahead and sign off. If you liked this video, please be sure to click thumbs up, share the video far and wide, leave your thoughts about this in the comments below, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. And also be sure to click the bell to get notified when I post a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon for another video. Bye, guys.